You're watching 2 Liter J.
2 Liter J for the real world, wide hood star.
Pastor 2 Liter for the real world, wide hood star.
Wow, I'm just in awe right now. But I first would like to thank God.
First of all, we'd like to thank God.
First of all, I'd like to thank God.
I would like to thank God because she makes everything possible.
I just want to thank God.
I'd like to thank God.
I'd like to thank God. I'd like to thank God.
I'd like to thank God.
We want to thank God.
And we would also love to thank God.
And what else is there to say? Of course, thank God.
God is good. I thank God for my family, my wonderful husband.
Number 6, God is real. God loves you. God wants the best for you. Believe that. I do.
And finally, I want to thank my mom and my dad. I want to thank my wife, Keisha, my children, my ancestors who continue to guide my steps, and God who believes in us all, and who's given me this moment in this lifetime that I will hopefully carry to the end of my lifetime into the next lifetime. Thank you.
First off, I want to thank God because that's who I look up to. He's graced my life with opportunities that I know are not of my hand or any other human hand.
Thank you. First, I must thank God. I must thank the Lord. Y'all already know.
You know, I always got to start off by thanking God because without him, I would not be standing before y'all. I ain't here to change nobody, but I know the God that I serve have gotten me this far.
We bumped into God also, and he said, don't forget to thank me when you get up there. Exactly. So, thank you.
All right, so I'm going to explain to you why the devil of this world is a woman. It has to do with the inversion, just like we see in the pentagram. Pentagram is symbolic of inversion because it is an inverted or perverted world that we live in. Everything here is in an inverted way because the person that runs this world's evil. Okay. It has to do with the forces of good versus evil. In the end, that's basically what it has to do with. So the reason why you see all these modern day women acting so narcissistic and so, pardon me, is so hatredful for men and mankind is because it is the devil and the evil side working against man, because man, of course, in the biblical sense, and when I reference the biblical sense, I'm not talking about the Christian way of looking at it, because that is nothing more than a fairy tale. I'm referencing it in the coded messages that are embedded within it, because the Bible is written in code. So I'm not referencing the Christian way that people think about it. That is nothing more than a made-up story. So it's all it has to do with is the forces of good and evil. So when we look at the Garden of Eden, you know, it was Eve, the woman, who disobeyed and went with the snake because, you know, Angry MGTOW, I mean, he said something that just was really interesting. He said, you know, woman was sent here as a test from the Creator, and when we failed the test, we were punished by that. And it's just an interesting way to look at it, but I think it has a lot of sense with what I'm going to say. So the devil of this world is a woman because it's the inverted. What is the opposite of man? It's woman. So if the devil was to come down, again, using the reference of the Garden of Eden, the woman was used to tempt the man into having the evil side take a hold by manipulation. All right, so the devil of this world is a woman because it's just the inverted It's just the inversion of man, because God was synonymous with being a man, or is known, at least in the best way we can understand it, as being a man. And I would say so myself. He is a man. Otherwise, there wouldn't be man or woman, you know. So that's what it's about. That's why you see your modern day women acting the way that they're acting, and all this crap is because it has to do with Lilith, or, you know, who is portraying one aspect of the devil. All right, that's why they are against each other in this odds of good versus evil. So women today in this world, because we live in an inverted world, is representing the inverted way of what women are, the feminine characteristics and all that stuff, submissiveness, whatever the fuck. Okay, because the devil of this world is a woman. That's where you hear the term "the devil wears Prada." Where do you think that comes from? The devil wears Prada, because it's a woman. That's why we see all this pussy worship bullshit going on today, because we're worshiping something that people don't understand. Because there's an occultic, secret-coded message of why. Okay, so women today are narcissistic. They abort their children. They hate men. They take off. It's because the behavior is replicable of what the devil is doing, which is he's working through the woman, just like in the Garden of Eden, to get the man to tempt him. Okay, it's all code. I'm not talking about the Christian stuff that people think about. This is a coded, occultic codes that are in the Bible. Just to clear that up. So this is why modern day women today act the way that they act. The devil of this world is a woman, because it is the inversion of man, and the man was synonymous with being with the Creator. So they wanted to overthrow man. This is why women want to pretend to be men. They want to pretend to be men. This is why we see all these TV shows portraying women in positions where man should be placed, because this is what it's about. That's what it's about, people. That's all it is. And so a man going your own way, how does that apply to all this? Well, it applies perfectly, I think. Because when you understand what I'm trying to tell you, you realize that we're dealing with something much bigger than just women, a bunch of crazy women who hate men. We're dealing with this in a way that this story has been played out hundreds of times of the history of this earth. Lilith, and I'm going to be talking about this later on today with Angry MGTOW. So if anybody wants to come into that chat, we're going to be discussing Lilith and the devil being a woman, because this is what it's about. The devil is a woman. It is the inversion of man. The man is the image of the Creator, which is man. This is why there's man and woman. If God wasn't man, then there would be no purpose of having man or woman, or even having the gender to begin with. What would be the point of that? So Lilith is the representation of why we see the women today acting the way that they act, because Lilith is the devil. Just remember, it is the pentagram, it is the inversion, it is the perverted way of doing it, because this world's run by the devil. That's just how it is. Okay? That's why the women today they act in all of evil ways. I listed and made a video about this, talking about women in your modern day dating scene and this narcissism. Why do you think the courts, which are tied with the government, which are tied with the powers that run this world, why would they do that to man? And why are all these messages coming out where, you know, this whole transsexual agenda bullshit is turning men into women? Because it is inverting the natural order of things in this world. That's what it's about. This is why women are allowed to, in most cases, they get away with more. That's why. Because they are the inversion. They are the devil. Women are the perverted, inverted sense of what women, in the context that we have grown up to know them as, are everything that is not. Because the devil of this world is a woman. Because it has to do with the inversion of man, which is made in the image of the Creator, which is man. That's why. So I wanted to explain that, because it is an important thing that a lot of people just don't understand. part of it's just because, you know, we're not taught these things. I'm interested in the occult. I've studied it for about 2 years, which is nothing. But I've learned so much from people and how the true meaning of this world really works and why people in this world get to be in positions of power and make a lot of money. All has to do with bloodline, and it all has to do with, you know, being embedded with the bloodlines. That's all it has to do with. That's why, you know, people that work really hard in this world don't get anywhere. Again, it's the inversion. Black versus white, yin versus yang, left versus right. There's no middle. So if you want to get to be in positions of power, you have to do inverted or perverted things to get there. That's how you make it, because is the inversion of good. Not working hard, not showing yourself, not being reputable. It's everything exact opposite of that. So when we're looking at man versus woman, it's nothing, it's the same thing. Because the devil that runs this world is a woman, because it's the inversion of man, which is the image of the Creator. Remember that. I'm drilling that into everybody's heads, because that is really what's going on here. And on a final note, and how do men realize this? How, you know, where do we go from here is basically what I'm trying to say. Well, now that you understand that's what's going on, it's pretty straightforward from that point. Don't engage with any women. It's that simple, because we're dealing with, you see, the environment affects how you end up behaving. Your environment affects how you end up behaving. So if we live in a perverted, inverted environment, how do you think women are going to turn out? This is why I'm going my own way. This is why I don't associate with women. Because how in the world is that even going to work when our environment is perverted and inverted? You're not going to be able to adequately have any kind of meaningful, you know, whatever with the opposite sex in a perverted, inverted environment. It's going to get the best of them. That's why women have such provocative clothes. Provocative clothes, provocative TV shows, whorish behavior, outlandish behavior, feminism, narcissism, sociopathic disorder, personality disorder, antidepressants, and the modern day dating scene. It's because that's why. You have to realize this as a man. You have to know that there's much more going on. And I just explained to you why. And this is why you shouldn't associate with any modern day women. Because when the environment is sick and perverted and inverted, how is that even going to work? It's not going to. It's not meant to. So, appreciate everybody for listening. I wanted to just explain a little bit more occultic. I wanted to explain this whole man versus woman feminist dynamic from basically a different perspective, which is from the occultic perspective, which is what I study in my free time. And this is what I've come to the conclusion to. And I feel like it's an important message that we need to understand as men going our own way, is that what we're a part of is so much bigger than what you could possibly imagine. And so if you're a guy out there and you're seeing these modern day women, just remember what's going on. And, you know, I don't care what anybody says. You know, everybody calls MGTOWs basement dwellers and all this other bullshit. Whatever, just let them say what they want to say, because like I explained, there's much more going on here. And we're a part of something much greater than most people understand. So, that's all I had to say. I appreciate everybody for listening. Again, and I'm going to be chatting with Angry MGTOW later on. 8 p.m. Pacific time, and Central Standard Time would be 10 o'clock my time. So, alrighty. I hope everybody has a good one. I'd love to hear everybody's feedback on the video. Tell me what you think. You know, give me some input. Love to hear it, and hope everybody has a good one.
Lucifer is female. Check this out. Inanna and An. This is an ancient Mesopotamian tablet that was translated via Oxford University. I'm going to leave links in the video description box so you can read this yourself. And there are hundreds of tablets that are translated on this website. I read this about a year and a half or so ago, did a podcast on it, and now I am going to give a completely different interpretation based upon the information and knowledge that I have gained since that time. When reading through this now and comparing it to Velikovsky's work Velikovsky, I'm reading through the chapters of Venus and how Venus is actually what caused a near extinction level event for humanity about 3,600 years ago. It's interesting because some people did a translation on tablets, like Zechariah Sitchin as an example, and he feels that these cataclysms are caused by Nibiru. Marduk is a god that's associated with Nibiru. Also, Anu, with the Sumerian pantheon, after Tiamat explodes, when it gets into a battle with Marduk, Anu is the father god of this solar system. Now, if you look at these stories that are translated, and if you read through Zechariah Sitchin's books, there's a lot of comparisons, but there's also a lot of differences. When I read through Velikovsky, once again, when I read through this earlier today, this book, Worlds in Collision, I was agreeing with most of what he was saying until I got to the chapter that talked about how Venus wasn't discussed, or not Venus, but how other planets weren't discussed thousands of years ago, but just four main gods. Just four main gods. And Uranus isn't in that pantheon. So when you read through these Sumerian tablets, you can actually connect Anu to Uranus, Enki to Neptune, Enlil to Jupiter, Shamash or Utu to the sun, Sin to the moon. The name of the moon deity is Sin. And some people have thought that maybe that word was more of like artificial in sense, and the moon is artificial as it came in here. Obviously, that is very controversial, and I'm agnostic to that as well. I think that it could be. If you look at the evidence, if you look at the data, like the giant maskins on the back of the moon, if you look at all the titanium alloy that they brought back, and how these crater blast sites are all about the same depth, even though it looks like some of them were hit a lot harder, the way that it rings like a bell. After something hits it, it's ding. It's hollow inside. So anyway, with that being said, this book right here, Worlds in Collision, I still feel Velikovsky does an excellent job describing some of these ancient religions and storylines with Venus. And also, let me read this to you. This is chapter 8, I'm just going to quick excerpt. The 52-year period. So there's a gentleman by the name of Fernando de Alva. He was a Mexican scholar, 1568 to 1648, and he could read old Mexican texts. He was able to preserve the traditions of the ancients. And the ancients, according to him, had a multiple 52-year period that was played out, had a very important role in the reoccurrence of world catastrophes. And there were two of them that caused a global change, causing a world age. Then, if you look at the Israelites, they wandered the desert for 40 years. And if you add to that, the Israelites left the desert and started the difficult task of the conquest. And at the time, the battle at Beth Horon, 12 years may have passed. So you would get 52 that way. Now, with that being said, there's also a remarkable fact, according to this excerpt. The natives of pre-Columbian Mexico expected a new catastrophe at the end of every 52-year period. So they would wait for the event on the night of the ceremony, and people were freaking out. They were scared. They were waiting for this giant god or goddess in the heavens to come wipe them out. They were afraid of the end of humanity, and that the darkness at night would actually become permanent, because the ancients talked about a time when the sun didn't set. Now, as they waited for the appearance of planet Venus, Lucifer, when nothing happened, well, then guess what? The Maya people would rejoice. They brought human sacrifices, offering the hearts of prisoners. They would actually open their chests with knives of flint. Knives of flint. Man, this thing is amazing. Look at this. 17 minutes and 46 seconds now. I've got it at 7,720 hertz, working on my lower back. It feels incredible. I can't say enough good things about this. You should check it out. Donat's Pain Relief Store. Coach K's even offering discounts for Leak Project listeners. He's offering specials for Leak Project listeners. Click the link directly. It's amazing. So anyway, I'm just saying. You can also use it for like headaches and all sorts of different opportunities. I sent one to my mom. She loves it. So let me share this with you though. Let me go back to this. Jubilee. Jubilee, was there any special reason why fear returned every 50 years? The Jubilee tradition. Okay, here we go. The Jubilee of the Mayas must have had a genesis similar to that of the Jubilee of the Israelites. The difference lies in the human character of the festival of the Jews and its inhuman character among the Mayas. But with both people, it was a year of atonement, repeating itself every 50th year in the one case and every 52 years in the other. Comets do not return at exact periods. The Mayas expected the return of a catastrophe every 52 years. That was the interval between two cataclysms that had taken place when Venus came back. However, with that said, the comet was actually seen again. Okay, so it may be that the comet was actually seen again at such intervals. The Jews fasted and prepared themselves for the day of judgment on the earliest possible date of its return. The Mayas had their festival within the dreaded time, when the dreaded time had passed without harm. On the Day of Atonement, the Israelites used to send a scapegoat to Azazel, or Azazel. They would do that in the desert. They did that as a ceremony, a propitiation of Satan. Gosh, I can't read worth a crap. My apologies. This is like, look at this little writing here. It's insane. I even highlighted it all. I got to get some glasses or something. This is ridiculous. My apologies. Thank you for staying with me. So, with that said, on the Day of Atonement, okay, just read that. In Egypt, the goat was an animal dedicated to Seth Typhoon. Azazel was a fallen star, or Lucifer. It was also called Azazel, Azza, or Uzzah, according to the rabbinical legend. Did I say that right? Uzzah was the star angel of Egypt. It was thrown into the Red Sea when the Israelites made their passage. The Arab name of the planet Venus is Al-Uzzah. Arabs used to bring human sacrifices to Al-Uzzah. Muhammad, too, in his early days, worshipped it, and even today, the Arabs seek its help. That's page 165 and 166. Velikovsky, Worlds in Collision. Then it goes on to talk about the birth of Venus, the blazing star. And then this is where I stopped and I said, I don't agree with this part. The 4-planet system. I mean, I agree with some of it. I just think he was missing information when he put this together. And first of all, this is exceptional work. Absolutely exceptional. But when he goes on to say the 4-planet system, by asserting that the planet Venus was born in the first half of the second millennium, I assume also that in the third millennium, only 4 planets could have been seen. In astronomical charts of this early period, the planet Venus cannot be found. Ancient Hindu tables of planets attributed to the year 3102, Venus alone among the visible planets is absent. The Brahmas, the early period, did not know the 5-planet system. Only in later, middle period, did the Brahmas speak of 5 planets. Now, this is where it says here, Babylonian astronomy, too, had a 4-planet system. Ancient prayers to the planet Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, and Mercury are invoked. The planet Venus is missing. And one speaks of the 4-planet system of the ancient astronomers of Babylonia. So, what about Anu? What about Enki? What about Enlil? What about Utu? Well, Utu is the sun. Utu is the representation of the sun. Enlil would be Jupiter. Zeus is Jupiter. See, I think Saturn might actually be Shamash. However, Shamash, the name Utu went to Shamash, and that is connected to the sun. But if there was a cataclysm that Venus caused, where it like ripped the veil around the planet to where now we can see all these different stars and planets, etc. If that happened, and Saturn at one point used to be the star, but now we see the sun and Saturn as a planet with rings around it, being the adversary to the sun. It was worshipped as the sun. And if you look at these ancient Sumerian tablets that show these wings, Shamash, Utu, the star of the ancients, Saturn, the rings, and the way that this thing has these wings, it makes me think of Saturn. So right now, I think it's a 50-50 chance, if not even greater, that Shamash, Utu, when they say it's the sun, they're actually speaking of the sun in ancient times, which is Saturn, which now, if you look at religious texts, especially the Christian religion or the Abrahamic religions, well, not even the Abrahamic religions, I would say just Christianity mainly, because the sun, Jesus Christ, is representation of the sun. Saturn, the adversary. Saturn, Satan meaning the adversary. And this is all connected to astrotheology, in my opinion. I look at Inanna now as Venus, and many ancient cultures would sacrifice people to Venus. Now, does that mean Venus is evil? Does that mean Lucifer is evil, if Lucifer is an actual entity, an archetype? Or does that mean people thought that because of what happened, so then they attempted to offset it by offering blood sacrifices? And these blood sacrifices are talked about way before 3,500 years ago. This goes back into the pre-Atlantis times, where the Dark Brotherhood that worked through the shadows, worked through blood, and people of high positions of power and authority. But you couldn't see them with your physical eyes. You can read about that in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Now, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth are only a few hundred years old, but that information is timeless, and you can definitely look at it towards today and say, wow, this is spot on. It's cryptic. You have to know how to pull it out and read it, such as a symbol that can be right in front of you. You have to know the meanings of those symbols, and the more you become in tune with yourself, the more you can learn from those symbols. And some people learn from mystery schools, secret societies. Other people can learn by finding it within themselves in the research that they do and asking for guidance and meditation and prayer, etc. But in this specific story here, Inanna and On, this is an incredible representation of what I feel Velikovsky talked about when Venus was captured, these battles in heaven. When I first read this 1.5 to 2 years ago, I was looking at it more as, these gods that were as beings battling. Now I'm looking at it as planetary battles, and this is a way to pass it from generation to generation. And those that are actually a part of secret societies and mystery schools, the further up they go in the echelon, the more they will know about their true history. And maybe the more you know about your true history is the more it will give you an opportunity to go to the next level, to be even more aware. This life and beyond. This life, the next life, the next life, the next life. Instead of staying stuck in a rut and in this cycle where you're not evolving, you're just a recyclable battery. No, you're going to the next, where you're actually going way above and beyond where you are now. And in order to get there, you need to know more about your true history, your true origins. Otherwise, it's like you're chasing swamp gas and carrots at the end of the stick. So, Inanna and On. This is a great story. And once again, this is from Oxford University. I'll leave the links in the video description box. Here's the project members. Great job translating these tablets for you, myself, and others to read online and share the information. Inanna and On. Holy Inanna, the hero, youthful Utu, at dead of night, Inanna, the great heavens, Now, there's some stuff missing there. Now, let me tell you what Iana is. Iana is a building that was supposed to be a connection to heaven. That is Inanna's holy place, such as Enki has his place in the great Apsu. Well, Iana is her temple. It's her connection to heaven. So then you could say, and you could speculate, is it a spaceport or is it more of a spiritual spaceport? Such as the great pyramids that are aligned with Orion's belt and these shafts that are connected to different star systems that you could astral project into. Maybe they could even physically project that way as well, but I think it was more mentally. They would mentally project into other star systems and constellations and download information, and almost just like putting on a VR headset and watching your drone, you know? Well, now you're in a completely different star system. Segment B. Iana comes forth from heaven. The Lady of Heaven set her mind to capturing the great heavens. Inanna set her mind to capturing the great heavens. So let's think about that for a minute. Inanna set her mind to capturing the great heavens. That's Venus flying through, causing havoc, messing up all these planets because Jupiter ejects it. And if you read through Velikovsky's work, Velikovsky does a great job describing how these cultures talked about how, the natives of pre-Columbia Mexico expected a new catastrophe every 52 years. Yeah, I went over that. There's some great information here that talks about the winged serpent, Quetzalcoatl, etc. Definitely read it. But let me go back to this. I don't want to lose track too much here. So segment B, Inanna set her mind to capturing the great heavens. Set her mind to capturing the great heavens from the youthful Utu. Now, Utu is her brother. Utu is the sun god. Utu is depicted with the wings. I think Utu is Saturn. Shamash, that sounds like Saturn too. Inanna set her mind to capturing the great heavens. So, youthful Utu, oh my, the NOS thing's finally done. Man, that feels so much better. I love this thing. It's awesome. I can take these transducers off and just set it here. These are the things I had hooked up to my back. They're pretty cool. All right. So, anyway, Holy Inanna spoke to her brother, the hero, youthful Utu. I want to tell you something. Pay attention to my speech, my twin. I want to tell you something. Her brother, the hero, youthful Utu, answered Holy Inanna, my sister, I swear an oath. Man, I feel so much better. By the life of heaven, I swear by the life of the rainbow of heaven, I swear by the life of my throne, by my majesty, I will follow what my sister says to me. I will follow what Holy Inanna says to me. The maiden Inanna answered her brother, the hero, youthful Utu. My spouse has made love to me, has kissed me. I wanted for him, but he did not give it to him. I hastened with him, but majestic On would not give him Iana. The heavens are ours. The earth is ours. Iana should be captured from On. After you have taken, listen to what I say to you. Examine. For me, you must observe these instructions, the evil wind, the south wind, against me. Adagbur speaks. Adagbur, the great net, the flood, the fisherman. Holy Inanna embarked on the barge, the rope, the south wind. The south wind rose up, the evil wind rose up in the distant heavens. Sounded like wind and plasma discharge and stuff from Venus flying in. The fisherman, the reed thickets, and the tall reeds. Inanna spoke to Adagbur, youthful Utu, the barge. Now, what is Adagbur? That is a... man, I'll get there in a minute. I forgot. Stay with me. Adagbur answered Holy Inanna, my lady, you cannot, your divinity, the fisherman, the south wind, my lady, if you travel on the barge and he raises the south wind, that south wind, and he raises the evil wind, that evil wind, barges and small boats will sink in the marshes. It's talking about the devastation of Venus. Whenever he approached the with his great net as it came out of the flood, the swelling sea, it lashed the water and made an evil. Holy Inanna answered the fisherman, if you are to find Iana, and I am to gaze in admiration at that place you said, the narrow passage. Adigbur answered Holy Inanna, through the reed thickets and the tall reeds for you, find Iana, which comes forth from heaven. Adigbur of Enlil. Through the reed thickets and the tall reeds, she gazed in admiration at Iana, which comes forth from heaven. Sulazita, On's herdsman, grasped the cosmic tethering rope in its hands. After he had brought the forth from the sky, he overcame the protective deities, and kept it below the horizon. Having drunk cleansing water from the Ulaya River, Inanna stamped on the scorpion and cut off its tail. Like a lion, it bellowed in an angry roar, but its cries died down. She threw it and made it secure. Having heard its cries, poured forth the clay of creation and laid it. I wish we could get all these words, but this is still giving us the majority of the picture. The great lady of heaven delivered those words to On. Having heard those words, On slapped his thighs missing words, his voice filled with sighs of grief. What has my child done? She has become greater than me. What has Inanna done? She has become greater than me. From now on, the normal length of daylight becomes shorter. The daylight converts to nighttime. Right here is describing how that veil was ripped open. Now we have nighttime. Before it was constantly daytime. Before it was a Garden of Eden. Before you would look at the sky and it was like this beautiful purple veil. Now it's amazing. Now it's incredible. However, we have night, we have day, we have more extreme weather. We don't have nearly as much protection from these cosmic rays. That right there, folks. Boom! That is incredible. That is absolutely incredible. Completely describes it right there. Good job, Velikovsky. Nibiru or Venus? Venus. And then you have people that for some reason think that they need to offer sacrifices, the ancients, where they're ripping prisoners' hearts out. Oh, thank you, Venus, for not coming back. Here's the hearts of our prisoners. Like, how did that idea even come to play? What happened? From today, let's go back. She has become greater than me. What has Inanna done? She has become greater than me. From now on, the normal length of daylight becomes shorter, and daylight converts to nighttime. From today, when the day's watch is 3 units long, daylight is equal to nighttime. And now, when day began, it was indeed so. That's powerful. On, who created gods and humankind, gazed at holy Inanna and addressed the favorite wife who travels by his side, unable to describe this arrogance. On was unable to describe to Inanna this arrogance. This arrogance, my child, you did not say. You were able to capture Iana. Inanna, you did not say. You were able to capture Iana. Iana should be as firm as heaven. It should not be toppled. Its attraction should never be exhausted. Its name should be the settlement of the land. Mankind, all of the people, should prostrate themselves at her feet. And now under that sun, and on that day, it was indeed so. Boom! And now under that sun, the new sun. And now under that sun, and on that day, it was indeed so. Inanna became greater than Anu, the father. She had captured Iana from On. She secured it. Now Inanna speaks of the Iana as the house that is the place of the lady. Lucifer's a lady. The goddess who has attained her triumphant position. Inanna, who has attained her triumphant position, declared in the good place, I have captured Iana from On. Because you are unmatched among the great princes, maiden, Inanna praises because you are unmatched among the great princes. Maiden Inanna, praising you is magnificent. When you're worshiping gods, do you ever wonder what planet they're connected to? What star they're connected to? This is powerful stuff right here. This is so exciting to read this a year and a half, 2 years later, and have a completely different perspective than I did before. And if you listen to it the first time and this time, you're probably right there with me. You're probably going, wow, this is incredible. When you start to connect the dots, and when you read the stanzas that were translated via Helena Blavatsky, whether you love her or you don't, I know a lot of people have been so misinformed by her that they won't even look into those books. They'll say it's all just like copycat information that she made up. Yet if you read those stanzas, and she even said when she translated them that she was going to be called crazy, basically, and that they couldn't confirm much of what she said then. Well, they can confirm much of it now, even more than before because of technologies. And it talks about how the original beings were so superior to what we are now. What if the original beings were the pure inception, the pure form in a human form of that planet or of that star, or they came from the sun? And then you can look at many of these ancient tablets, and not the tablets, but the ancient hieroglyphics from Egypt. And you can see some of these interpretations of the red sun and the bullhorns, etc. And there's also another great story that you should read from there that describes how Inanna took the bullhorn from Anu and claimed dominion and leadership. That's a very interesting story. But what if each planet, each star can manifest into a specific being? And what if this solar system that we're in right now, we have to incarnate into these different planets and these different cycles before we can make it into the next solar system, into the next level? If you go outside of the Kuiper Belt, these trans-Neptunian objects, it's so bizarre and far out there, no pun intended, that everything changes. So what happens if we could get out to that position physically? Or is there a quarantine within the solar system? Will Saturn pick us up, swing us right back? You're not done yet. You got more work to do. And then when you're ready, do you go through the sun as a stargate? Like, the wings you back in, bang! And then when it describes the only way to the Father is through me, the sun, is the sun some type of stargate that now we have access to that we can go through? Do we need to completely rewrite the way our mind thinks about gods and deities and religion and spirituality and the planets and the stars and the heavens, the electric universe? Like, I was just charging my batteries with this thing. If we're all batteries, this thing is like, that's how you charge your batteries. Turn it up. Pretty cool. Oh, yeah, and Christmas is right around the corner. So have you gotten your Christmas gifts yet? You should go to historicsilvercoins.com, use the Leak Project code, pick yourself up a Morgan coin, a Morgan silver coin from like the late 1800s or early 1900s. You can get them uncirculated, lightly circulated. If you use the code Leak Project, you get a $5 discount. And these things are awesome. So I took mine with me yesterday when I went out to the Zuggernaut in Crestone, Colorado. And I felt like it was my lucky coin. So there's neat history to these coins. The year that I got mine, Colin sent me the history of that year and tons of symbology, or very symbolic. Some people say symbology isn't a word. Look it up. It is a word. And I'm going to use it again, symbology. So there. Now, did I blow your mind? Because my mind's blown right now. Hello, this is amazing. Be excellent to each other. Subscribe, youtube.com/clandestine time lord. Go to leakproject.com today. Become a premium member. Get access to exclusive content, over 2,000 podcasts. And I do have a few limited edition Leak Project 5G shielding tinfoil custom caps handmade from the United Kingdom left. They're signed and numbered for authenticity and the cool factor. Be the change you want to see, everybody.
All right, so continuing on this whole thing with the serpent and the devil, the woman, the Lucifer,
I wanted to touch upon the second thing that I didn't mention, which was the Garden of Eden story. And this will link, I think, a lot of this whole thing with the snake and all this stuff with what we're talking about. So let's do this. So the serpent, all right. The whole story with the Garden of Eden is that Adam was placed in the Garden of Eden. Now, before I go further, when I talk about this kind of occultic stuff with the Lucifer and how the devil's a woman, this is all just my own interest and thought in looking into this stuff. When you start looking into the occult and things of this nature, it gets tricky. It gets tricky because the difficult thing about this kind of information is deciphering what is lies and what is the truth. That is why this stuff is difficult to understand, because we're going off of connecting little tiny bits and pieces together without being told the truth about what really went on. We've been so lied to about a lot of things in life, and so we have to sift through buckets of shit to find needles in haystacks and try to connect dots, and sometimes those dots don't make sense, and sometimes we're completely off. I could be completely off from what I was talking about, but I do know that there is a connection with all of this stuff. That's what I know to be true. The tricky part about this is figuring out what is the lie and what is the truth. So just wanted to put that out there. This stuff it's a constant study. That's why you say you study the occult, or you're studying it, because it's a constant practice of trying to understand and put pieces together, and the puzzle is almost never ending. It doesn't end. And so you have to take pieces and put them in front of you, and sometimes they fit and sometimes they don't. You got to rework things, and you got to think, and sometimes it takes months and weeks and if not years to try to connect the dots of things. And so it's difficult to understand because of that. It's a constant study into this stuff. So this whole thing with the Garden of Eden, okay, so Adam was placed in the Garden of Eden. All right, I think that the Garden of Eden wasn't a very nice place. I don't know all the details about why we were put here, or what the reasons behind all the details. I don't know everything. I'm just trying to connect little dots and things together that I find interesting, that seem to make sense to me. But Adam was placed in the Garden of Eden, and so because of that, Adam, God said it wasn't good for him to be alone, so he created Eve, just like he did with the Lucifer. But what happened was that when he was placed in the Garden of Eden, I think the serpent was already there. It was already there in the Garden of Eden, because like I said, I think that this world is run by the woman, or Lucifer, the broad, because she was cast out. And if you think about it, Earth is the lowest element in all of the elements. You have earth, fire, water, wind, or air. And earth is the lowest element of all the elements. They go in order. I'm trying to find a good example to show you. Oh, and by the way, here's something interesting. You see all these colors here? This red, yellow, blue, green stuff. What this symbolizes the cycle. This symbolizes the cycle here. And so what happens is that, oh look, see here's the, oh, I thought that was the seal. I learned all this stuff from another individual, and I didn't come up with that myself. But this symbolizes what you see on the, oh here's a good example. Right here. This is red, yellow, blue, and green. This is just like the Windows logo, because it has to do with the different cycles of life. The beginning, the middle, towards the end, and then the end. So you have like birth, then you have young adulthood, then you have older adulthood, what they say, grandparents, and then you have the beginning all over again. So this whole Go Green movement that people talk about is the end. They're trying to create the end of everything, so to speak. But earth is the lowest element in all of the elements that make up. So you have wind, you have fire, you have water, and then earth. Earth is hell, or lower level. of Earth. So that's the lowest element. So that's why they say that you put people in the ground because they rot, or because of the fact that it's interesting. You see these X's back here. You see, so that's why they say you put people in the ground because the ground rots, and then it starts all over again because like they say, when you put manure or stuff into the ground, it creates nutrients because it's rejuvenating the nutrients. So it's just the cycle of how things work here. But Earth is the lowest element. That's why they say, they mention hell to be in the ground or in the lower part of Earth because it has to do with the lowest element or the ground or beneath. But with that being said, that's why I think that this place is run by the devil or Lucifer because of the fact that Earth is the lowest element. That's where hell is. And in this, going into this whole thing with Mother Earth, Gaia, all this stuff like this. Let me show you. The Jews worship the woman. They worship the woman, so it's kind of interesting. This whole thing with like Mother Earth, the Earth is in the ground, the Mother. This is nothing good. This is not positive or good or any of that stuff. I don't think so. This whole thing that people, gotta let Mother Nature take its course or whatever. I don't think that's a good thing. I don't think that's anything good. I think this is just a disguise. It's for Lucifer because it's the Earth that the person was, runs this place. That's an interesting picture. It kind of looks like Medusa, doesn't it? I had a commenter say that, Medusa and the whole thing, like... Oops. Medusa, all these stories that constantly revolve around the snake and the broad. It's always a woman and snakes. And I'm going to touch upon this with the Garden of Eden story. Oh, here's Rihanna. Isn't that cute with the serpent eyes? I'm going to explain this with the Garden of Eden story. Medusa, the snakes. You got the snake, Medusa and the snake. Whole story with Medusa is you look at her, you turn into frickin' ash. It's a nice picture, isn't it? So there's this recurring theme with women and snakes. I had a commenter link me this video. It was interesting. I watched it. But there's this recurring theme with women and snakes. So going back to the Garden of Eden story. Man was put into the Garden of Eden, which I think was Earth. And it wasn't a good place, because there's suffering here. Because it's run by the woman. Okay? Which is Lucifer. Continuing on that theme. And so what happened was, he said he wanted to, God said, I will give you a companion because it's not good for you to be alone. This is just what the story says, okay? This is what the story is saying. And so he had Eve. And in the beginning, I think Eve was good. She wasn't, the whole intention was for her to be good, not to be evil, I don't think. But what happened was that the serpent was already there in the Garden of Eden, which is where you see the serpent in the tree and the forbidden fruit. That's why, because what happened, what they teach and what I just from what I can understand it to be, is that when Lucifer got kicked out of heaven, she went and fucked around with demonic entities that were of the serpent bloodline, so to speak. The serpentine bloodline. Some people always talk about this whole reptilian thing. I think that's what they're referring to is the serpent bloodline, because that's the whole thing with the serpentine eyes. And the serpent and the snake in the Garden of Eden. So she went out and fucked around with these serpents. And when she came back, that's why it's symbolic of showing in the Garden of Eden as there being a serpent. Let me show you something else. There's this movie called Lucy. With this chick, what's her face? Scarlett Johansson. I want to show you something here. Interesting, I looked this up last night. This is a website I follow quite frequently. There's a scene, and I have not seen the movie, but there is a scene in this movie where you see the serpent eye. Here it is. Look, you see here? Throughout Lucy's transforming, we see a close-up of her eyes, which keeps changing form, something reptilian. This is this whole reptilian thing that people keep talking about. It's really the serpent, which is, I mean, it's all tied in, whatever. Which emphasizes the fact that she is not human anymore. This whole serpent thing that we keep seeing in movies, like this movie is about... I haven't seen the movie. I don't know what this whole thing is about. It's like some power this chick has or whatever. It's funny how they put the lead female, the power chick, always doing all this kind of tough guy stuff. They put a broad in there, right? And so they show this scene in the movie with the serpent eye. So going back to this, with the snake in the Garden of Eden, the snake was already there. That was Lucifer, as with the biblical teachings tell it to be. There's much more in-depth story, but just keeping it simple. This is the Lucifer chick. This is the broad that we talked about in my last video. Lucifer. She went out and fucked around with the serpentine race, and that's why she is symbolic of being a snake, which is why you saw that thing with this. Because it's symbolic of the serpentine. And what happened was the snake tempted the chick. And oh, here's another thing about this. This chick, this actress, Scarlett Johansson. I've watched this. Is it? Oh, I thought that was like... What is this? Is she wearing snake skin? No, okay. Never mind. There's this picture for some kind of promo this chick did or whatever. Look at this. For this Jungle Book thing, I'm going to play this. She played a character in the movie The Jungle Book. And look at this picture. She played in this movie. Oh, by the way, she's wearing a red dress. That's the Whore of Babylon. That's the broad. That's Lucifer. That's the whole thing with that. And she's pictured with a snake. And she plays in this movie, The Jungle Book, she plays this character, which is the snake, and it's a female voice. But this picture, I thought, look at this. Fucking sitting there with a snake with the red dress. Here's a picture of her on the set of something, holding a snake. Here's another picture of her. This is the character she played in this Jungle Book movie. She played the fucking snake and with a female voice. See all these women and snakes? You see what I'm talking about? All these women and snakes and all this shit. See all these women and their snakes? Look at this picture with the frickin' apple, with the snake, with the broad. You see what I'm talking about here? Women and snakes. Here's Lilith. That's Lilith. The snake and the thing. You see what I'm talking about? See here with the X? See what's Saturn. All these women and snakes. Yeah, that's real nice. It's real nice. Yeah. We saw that picture last night, didn't we? It's funny how it all popped up with the related search of the snake. Here's Angelina Jolie with this frickin' snake, this frickin' snake woman. Playboy with snakes. Good lord, what the fuck? What is this? See, that's the whole thing with the Garden of Eden with the snake. This whole story with the Garden of Eden and the snake was Lucifer, or the broad, the chick. This whole thing. And so, here's another chick with a red dress with a snake. Snake with the apple. The apple symbolizes the fall of humanity, which is the situation that we're in now. Here's Medusa. With the snakes, again, going back to this. Going back to this, the snake, the Medusa, the broad, this is Lucifer. It's just, see, all these characters that keep reoccurring in all these mythological stories about Medusa and Lilith and Isis and all these characters are nothing but the same. The spirit that possesses these people is the same one, which is the Lucifer character, the devil. That sums it up right there. They just reoccurring. All these stories that you keep talking about, we keep hearing about in these stories in mythology and Greek mythology with women and snakes, is because it has to do, in my opinion, with Lucifer. Lucifer was a chick. It was a woman, which is why it's called Lucifer. People think it's Lucifer as in a man, but it's actually Lucifer, as a Lucy, as in a woman. And so the Garden of Eden with the snake was the woman who tempted the other woman because she knew, the snake told the woman, you want to have power. Because she knew, in her experience, being fallen in nature because of the first go-round and all this stuff, that God wasn't going to give her the power. And so she wanted to get even with God's creation, which was man. Henceforth, why she went to the chick and not the dude. And so I just wanted to bring this up. All these reoccurring stories about chicks and snakes and Medusa. Oh, here's a fitting picture. Yeah, Hillary Clinton. So all these reoccurring stories, it's trying to tell us that there has been a reoccurring pattern, a reoccurring theme throughout history, that this is the case, that this Luciferian chick, why is it that Medusa was a woman? Why is it that she was a broad? Because the broad was loose. So I just wanted to show you this with the Garden of Eden story, because I didn't touch upon that in when I did the video. But this constant reoccurring theme with snakes and Medusa and the serpentine eye, with what you saw in that thing with the movie Lucy, with the broad, it's trying to show you that they're trying to tell you something here. Oh, and this is interesting, this tattoo that this chick has, that looks like Iana, or that whole thing with the owl and all that. It's the same thing. It's a cat. I think it's the same thing. It's just, but this is the same character. It's just the same. The person that's in here is the same person as the Lucifer. It's just a different incarnation, so to speak, throughout the stories, like Isis. Like you have Isis. You have the goddess Isis. You see there? Oh, here's that tattoo. That's interesting how that got pulled up. You see this tattoo here? You see this tattoo here? That's the same tattoo that this chick had. So where was that picture? You see there? See this tattoo here? See that? It's the same one. This is Isis, the goddess of manifestation and magic and all this other shit. It's the same character. It's Lucifer. It's the same person. You see here? See the tattoo here? With the leg like that? You see here? It's the same person. It's Isis. That fucking Rihanna chick has a tattoo of Isis with the fucking snake and Medusa with the serpent eyes. And then this is Isis. You see what I'm saying? It's the same story being played out in different, it's just the same story in each time of whatever history, whether it's Egypt. And oh, by the way, I had a commenter ask me if the Egyptians were into devil worship or whatever. The Egyptians worship cats, by the way. Everything about their symbology has to do with cats. And remember what I told you with the whole thing with the lion roaming the earth seeking who he may devour? The Egyptians worshipped cats. And what I find funny about cats is that they have eyes that are very similar. Why is my web browser doing this? Cats have eyes that are very similar to snake eyes. I just thought that was interesting. Why do cats have eyes that look like snake eyes? Why? Why is it that they look like snake eyes? They look exactly like snake eyes. I always thought that was very weird with cats. Why do cats have eyes that look like snakes? You know? Just interesting. Just a thought. Why do cats have eyes that look like snakes? Just interesting. Just very interesting. But the Egyptians worshipped cats. So, again, the cat, I think, is the lion roaming the earth, seeking and we may devour. This whole thing with the cat and the energy that the cat transmits, and why they worship the cat. I mean, like, why do they worship a cat for? It's because of the fact of what it's connected to, which is this whole thing I'm trying to explain to you. And so they worship cats and the Sphinx. You know the Sphinx? Right here. The Sphinx is a cat. So what this is, the Sphinx is. It's a hairless cat. So I just kind of wanted to show you this because I didn't bring this stuff up in my other video with the connection with the Garden of Eden thing. But the Garden of Eden thing is the same story. Adam was placed in the Garden of Eden because of the fact that, I mean, I don't know why he was placed there, but I think the Garden of Eden was what they say Earth, you know, or whatever, but it wasn't a good place. You know, it wasn't a good place because it was run by the broad. And so what happened was Adam, you know, God didn't want Adam to be alone or whatever, and so he made Eve. And then Eve was tempted by the serpent, right here. Tempted by the serpent, which was Lucifer, which was the chick. And she told the chick. It's interesting why it was a woman that was told, right? Because it was a woman to a woman. She knew that God wasn't going to give the chick the power that she thought. And so she manipulated Eve or whatever. She ate the forbidden fruit. And then she went off and fucked around with demons too, just like this whole character was. And then they got in league with all this crap. And so this is the whole thing with women and snakes, like Medusa, Isis, like the tattoo I just showed you, that chick Rihanna, right here. That's Isis, which is this tattoo here. It's the same person. It's the same character. And it's henceforth a tattoo with the snake and this and all that. All of it ties in together. And that's the story of it, I think. I think that's what we're dealing with. Lucifer, or Lucifer, was a woman. She went out and fucked with the serpent race, which is why it's snakes. And so that's the story, I think. That's what we're dealing with. So the whole thing is that the Lucifer character is the woman, the snakes, the Garden of Eden, Medusa, Isis, Diana, Ishtar, Lilith. Just one other thing. Let's see what pops up with this. That's Kate Moss, by the way, that fucking model or whatever. Kate Moss again with the frickin' apple and the snake. And here's Lilith, which was supposed to be Eve, I guess. I think it's the same person. It's just different ways of different names of different characters. This is Lilith or Ishtar. See the owl and all this stuff, the snake, the serpent, crescent moon with the thing with the cross here. This is the same thing. So there you have it. You know, I just thought I'd kind of make these couple videos just to show you kind of what I think is going on with all this stuff. A little bit of occultic information for those who are interested. You know, like I said, there's a lot of deception out there. There's a lot of stuff out there that you have to sift through, and you got to go through and all this stuff to try to figure out these answers, which is why it's a constant study. You have to always look into this stuff, you know. I don't claim to have all the answers at all. I don't know anything compared to the things as a whole. I'm just trying to put pieces together so that I can understand what's going on with our world. What's trying, you know, all these stories about Greek mythology, and I learned Greek mythology back when I was in elementary school. I never got it, but later on, when I started looking into this stuff only a couple years ago, that I started connecting the dots as to what these stories were really trying to say with these people. You know, and not just Greek mythology with Egypt and Medusa and all these characters with the snake and the woman in the Garden of Eden and all this reptilian shit. It's the snake. It's the serpentine race. Serpentine race. No, it's not it. I just want to look this up real quick. That's a suitable picture. I think that's from a movie. People always talk about this whole reptilian thing. It's a snake. It's a snake. That's a more suitable picture of what you're looking at there with all this whole snake stuff. But anyways, just wanted to come to kind of clear that up there. So you always have to be looking into this stuff. Like I said, I think that, you know, Lucifer, the devil, is actually pronounced Lucifer, and that this character in the Garden of Eden with the snake was already there. She tempted Eve to eat the forbidden fruit. She went out and fucked with demons because it was Lucifer that tempted Eve because it was a chick, and she told her that she couldn't get the power because God didn't give it to me. So, you know, take this and I'll give you all the power. And so it was the fall, and that's what caused the shit that we see today with feminism and all this crap and the snake and the serpent and all this stuff. It's all these characters like Medusa and Lilith and Ishtar and Iana and all this stuff. It all goes back to Lucifer, which I believe was a broad. And this is just showing you with the snake race and what this Lucifer chick fucked around with was the serpentine race, that, you know. And so all these characters, Lilith and the snake and all this other stuff, it all just ties in together. So anyways, that's all I wanted to say. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for all the comments, by the way. You guys sent me, a couple of my commenters sent me some stuff I'm going to look into. And I might make a video about it, but it just comes to show you, like, the leopard print stuff, you know, with the women wearing leopard print and you know, snakeskin purses and all this kind of shit. It all just ties in. I just thought this was interesting. Oh, by the way, I just saw something. What was that picture? Where's that picture at? This kind of, I thought, looked like the black sun, which was Saturn. Oh well, you know, anyways. One other thing I just noticed when I was looking at these pictures. First of all, the Sphinx, you see how the Sphinx looks like this? You see these things right here? They look like a cobra. It looks like a cobra. You know, a cobra has like a hood. A cobra has a hood that kind of pops out. Here, let me show you. You see this? How it does that? Right here? I kind of think that this kind of looks like that. And see right here? You see this little thing right here? That's a cobra. That's a cobra. That's a freaking cobra. See here. You see this thing right here? That's a cobra on the forehead. That is a cobra. This thing is a cobra. The Uranus, I think. What is that? Uranus? Yeah, the Uranus or cobra was symbolic of northern Egypt on the upper forehead of the Sphinx. It's clearly seen the Uranus or cobra. I think that's pronounced Uranus. Uranus, whatever, Uranus. The cobra, and is made from the stone of the Sphinx itself. The tail of the cobra is missing today. Perhaps it once sat on the forehead of the Sphinx head. Part of the cobra has been broken off as the nose has fallen, and false beard. However, the 2-foot limestone piece of the eyes and the mouth of the Sphinx cobra was found between the paws of what? However, the 2-foot limestone piece with the eyes and the mouth of the Sphinx's cobra was found between the paws of the Sphinx, and now in the British Museum it has the dimensions of length of 59 centimeters wide, 33 centimeters in height, and 30 centimeters. Since the Sphinx had only had a cobra, Uranus, and as a permanent part of it, therefore was a symbol of northern Egypt, it was a clear sign that all the great Sphinx was ruling the north and had the Hebrews and the Baal, Zephyron, Lord of the North. You see all this stuff right here, these Egyptians, see the cobra, you see this here, with the hood, it's because it's a cobra, it's a snake, it's part of, these Egyptians are part of the snake lineage, I think. See here with the cobra, this hood with the Sphinx, the cobra in the middle, the center with the head. Now what I found was interesting was when I was looking at this picture in the video going over it, you see this little picture right here? You see that little picture right there? It looks like a snake, it looks like a cobra. Does it not? Let me see if I can pull it up. You see this thing right here? Hold on. Let me see if I can blow this picture. I don't think I can. Nope, I can't. Okay. That looks like a frick. It looks like, see this, it's a snake. It's a tongue. You see this, the forked tongue? What's a snake? That's a fucking cobra, man. What is that doing in a picture with a cat? I.e. the Sphinx, the cat, the snake, the cobra, you see what I mean? What is that doing there? What is that doing there? That's ridiculous. National Geographic Kids, the fucking snake. Okay. Again, here's Isis with the wings. What is a snake doing in there? What is that thing doing in there? What is the snake doing in this picture? But it's so ridiculous. Oh, this is why I love researching this stuff. You just find stuff, you're like, wow, that's unbelievable. It's so ridiculous. It's a snake with the cobra in the center. That's what the Sphinx was. Most people don't ever catch that. I didn't catch it. That little thing right there is a cobra. This hood is a cobra. This person was part of the snake lineage. The Egyptians, the Sphinx was part of the snake lineage. I just thought that was interesting. I was just going back and looking at, watching my video, making sure I got everything, and I looked into the picture, and I was like, holy shit, that's a snake. This is a cobra hood, and there's a snake right there in the middle, like this right here. It's all stuff. So anyways, just thought that was interesting. There's a lot to cover, but I want to show you something with the cross. You know that X? Remember the seal of Saturn? This picture here, remember the seal, and then the woman's DNA and all that stuff I was telling you about? The symbol for Saturn is this. You see the cross right here? This cross right here. You see this? This is the seal for Saturn, and then this is the cross. This is why I'm telling you, this is, I think, why they crucified Jesus on a cross. Because they knew that this cross symbolized Saturn. You just have to turn the picture and it's an X. And so when you look at things like this, see the cross here? With the cross here. There's the seal of Saturn with the cross, the XX. You see what I'm talking about? That's seal. You see what I'm talking about? So I think when they do the crucifixion, they fuck, you know, this is why they did it, because it was symbolized this whole thing right here. That's what the cross is, with the cross, with the female symbol, the X, the cross. So that's, oh, here's the Jewish sign. See what I'm saying? Oh, that's a nice picture to add to that, isn't it? I think I figured this whole thing out with the cat. I was doing this, so check this out. The whole thing with the Egyptians and the cats. So this is why they worship the cat. Because the cat, I was looking at this thing, remember with the snake? Bastet was a goddess This is why they worship the cat, because it's the chick, it's the broad, was a goddess who could become cat. So they worship a cat because apparently the cat could, the chick or whatever, this Isis, Iana, Ishtar, Lucifer, this whole thing again, could turn into a cat. So they worship the broad. Again, they worship the woman. It says here a bastard was a goddess who could become a cat. Let me look this up. This is why they worship the cat. This is why chicks like cats and all this crap. All ties into this. Yeah, you see here. This is this Isis character. You see, remember the picture I showed you with those people, with those women at the Donald Trump protest, with the Women's March in Washington with the cat. Remember this? Remember what I told you? Lion roaming the earth, seeking who may devour, the woman, the cat, Isis, Ishtar. And then it says here, Basket was a goddess who would become a cat. And you see here? See this? You see that? She could turn herself apparently into a cat. That's why they worshipped it, because it was the symbolic of the cat. That's why the Egyptians worshipped the cat, because they're worshipping the broad. And this character is the same one. You see the wings? That's Isis. Remember? See the cat? Turn goddess. It was a goddess. It means a broad. Turn herself into a cat. Remember that tattoo, that Rihanna chick I showed you? See the wings? See the wings? Isis. The Isis character is the same one as the Lucifer character, the broad, the chick. That's why it's a woman with the snake, as you can see here. Goddess of the throne. Remember when I showed you that book about the demonic wiki who wanted to exalt herself above the throne of all heavens? Goddess on the throne. You see what I'm saying? With the snake. Look kind of like a vulture, but it's a snake, as you see, has wrapped around. With the hood. That looks like it's like bird wings. It's a hood. Because it's a cobra. It's a snake. The woman being the snake, you see? With the cat. So, that's the last video. That's what I'm going to do. Just add that in there. There's a lot of stuff. Like I said, it takes a lot of time. There's things everywhere. If you just know what you're looking at, you can go off. You can just go off into the oblivion with this stuff. Who's this? Goddess Isis with the cross. What is this? This is interesting. Oh, this whole thing with the kid, like breastfeeding or whatever. It's the mother character, which is the broad, which is Lucifer, because it's Mother Earth. Like I said, Mother Earth, the one that rules this place, which is Lucifer, giving birth to the creation. Or whatever, because, you know, so the resurrection of Isis is labor of love.
Revelation 17. And there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me,
Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters, with whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication.
So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, full of names of blasphemy, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written,
Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth.
And And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me,
Wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman, and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was, and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit, and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was, and is not, and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains, on which the woman sitteth. And there are 7 kings, 5 are fallen, and 1 is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. And the beast that was, and is not, even he is the 8th, and is of the 7, and goeth into perdition. And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which have received no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings. And they that are with him are called, and chosen, and faithful.
And he saith unto me,
The waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God hath put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth.